The story begins with Michael, a quiet, observant man in his mid-30s pulling into the driveway of the family home he helped pay for but no longer belongs to. Dressed neatly, holding a carefully wrapped box in his hands, he hesitates before stepping out of his car. His face shows the tension of someone who hasn't been home in a long time, though technically, he owns part of it. Flashbacks intercut with the present. Months earlier, his parents and siblings sitting around a dining table, telling him the family needs his help. They've found their dream house, a larger one for hosting, with space for grandkids, a better neighborhood. They don't qualify for the mortgage alone. They ask Michael to co-sign and invest. Though reluctant, Michael agrees. Despite already living modestly, he wires over the down payment, never asked to move in. His role was financier, not family. Back in the present, Michael walks toward the house. He can hear laughter through the open windows, the sounds of clinking glasses, jazz music, a hired saxophonist in the yard. He reaches the front door and raises his hand to knock, but the door opens before he can. It's James, his younger brother, well-dressed and slightly drunk. The smile on James's face fades when he sees Michael. "You weren't supposed to come," James says flatly. Behind him, the party glows with string lights and laughter. It's just close friends and family. Michael stares at him. "I am family." James avoids eye contact. "Do you know what I mean?" There's a pause. Michael takes one small step forward, but James puts a hand to his chest, not hard, just final. "You said you didn't want drama." Michael doesn't argue. He nods once, the box still in his hand, and backs away from the threshold. James closes the door slowly. Michael stands there, in the porch light, holding the gift. A car passes by. Crickets chirp. He turns and walks back to his car, places the box carefully in the passenger seat, but he doesn't start the engine. Michael drives to a nearby park instead. The sun is starting to set. He finds a bench overlooking a small pond. He watches ducks glide across the surface as the evening light dances in the ripples. He pulls out his phone and scrolls through old photos, birthdays, holidays, moments that feel distant now. Photos of him and his mother, before her tone turned cold. His father, who used to call him the quiet backbone. He sees the mortgage app screenshots, his wire transfer receipts, his name on the deed. He thinks about all the times he swallowed his pride for the sake of peace. The years he gave, the space he allowed them to fill. How they once said, "You'll always have a place here," and how easily that promise dissolved. He picks up the gift box beside him and slowly unwraps it. Inside is a small handcrafted wooden frame. In it, the original purchase agreement of the house, a notarized document, his name bolded under owner. Attached is a handwritten note. "Every home needs a foundation. This was mine." He doesn't cry, he simply exhales. Then he rewraps it carefully. We cut to Michael walking back to the house. Not through the front, he circles to the side gate, which creaks as he opens it. The backyard is alight with string lights and floral arrangements. A tent has been set up. People are no one sees him. He walks quietly to a small alcove near the garden, where the original stone from their old fireplace has been installed as a memory piece. He places the gift there, upright, prominent, but not disruptive. A silent declaration. He steps back, watches from the shadows as his mother laughs at a joke. His father raises a glass. They look older than he remembers. Happier, maybe, or maybe just more certain without him. He turns and walks away this time, for real. The next morning, the house is quieter. Sunlight streams through the kitchen windows. The backyard still holds traces of the party napkins in the grass, an empty wine glass on the fence. James walks out groggily, heading to the garden for coffee. He stops. He sees the gift, untouched. He picks it up and reads the note. His face changes curiosity to guilt, then something deeper. He walks it inside, where their parents are already in the kitchen. "Did you know he came?" James says softly. Their father looks up from the newspaper. "Who?" "Michael." The mother pauses mid-sip. "What?" James places the gift on the counter between them. A beat of silence. Then the father speaks. "I thought he was working." The mother's voice is quieter now. "He wasn't invited." "No," James replies, "but he still came." They open the gift together. As they read the document, the mother's hand trembles slightly. She recognizes the paper. She had signed it. She had forgotten or had chosen to forget how real his contribution had been. The rest of the act moves between phone calls that go unanswered, attempts to reach him, apologies typed and deleted, regret surfacing in layers. Conversations about fairness, about family, about the invisible son who kept the foundation strong but was never welcomed inside. We see Michael in a new apartment, modest, clean, full of light. There's peace there. Not joy exactly, but clarity. He waters a plant, places a photo of him as a child on a shelf. He turns off his phone and breathes. A week has passed since the anniversary party. Inside the family home, everything looks the same: immaculate counters, framed family photos, the soft hum of a dishwasher, but there's tension now. Not spoken aloud, but present. In the silences, in the way the father quietly reads the same newspaper article over and over. In the way the mother doesn't hum while doing dishes anymore. In the way James keeps checking his phone, swiping through unsent texts to Michael. Gift still sits in the living room. It was moved once to the side table but returned by the father with a firm look. It stays where he left it, he said. No one argued. In a rare act of honesty, James brings it up during Sunday dinner. We treated him like he didn't matter, but without him, we wouldn't even be sitting here. The mother snaps, don't be dramatic. But her voice is too quick, too defensive. She knows James is right. The father just stares at his plate. He didn't just help us buy this house, he believed in us. More than we believed in him. It hangs heavy over the table, like the chandelier that sways slightly from the air vent. Above, flashbacks ripple in and out. Michael helping James with his resume. Michael showing up at the hospital when their father had chest pains. Michael covering their mother's car repairs without being asked. Small things, things that built up, things that were expected, things never returned. Meanwhile, in his new apartment across town, Michael is trying to rebuild routine. He works late, takes walks at night, and avoids anything that reminds him of his family. He doesn't talk about what happened. He doesn't need to. We see a subtle shift in him, calm, but distant. A man who has given up on being understood. He sees his therapist once a week, who tells him something that sticks. Sometimes the silence we give is louder than any confrontation. Michael nods. It feels true. He receives messages, voicemails from his father. Call me when you get a moment. Texts from James, you were right. I was a coward. Even a forwarded email from his mother with a single line. We never deserved you. But he says nothing. Deletes none. Responds to none. Back at the family house, his absence is growing louder. When James tries to invite friends over, the atmosphere feels wrong. When the mother tries to host brunch, people notice the tension. The foundation is still there, but the warmth is gone. The soul is missing. The house has become a monument and, not in a good way. One day, the father goes to the fireplace and picks up the gift box again. He opens it, rereads the note. His fingers run over Michael's handwriting, like a man trying to touch a memory. He looks at his wife and says, "We need to go see him." She doesn't answer, but she doesn't stop him either. The father and James arrive at Michael's apartment. The building is older, but what kept. As they walk down the hallway, the father carries the gift in his hands again, like a peace offering, or maybe a confession. They knock. Michael opens the door. His face is unreadable, not angry, just done. There's a long pause. I brought this back, the father says, because it doesn't belong to us. It was never really ours. Michael doesn't reach for it. He doesn't invite them in. James speaks, quieter. I was wrong. We all were. I don't have excuses anymore. Michael looks between them, then steps outside the apartment, gently closing the door behind him, still not letting them in. He walks past them toward the stairs. They follow. On the rooftop, the three of them stand under the open sky. It's golden hour, sunlight bathing, everything in soft orange. For the first time in years, they speak honestly. Michael says, "You wanted my help, not my presence. You wanted my sacrifice, not my voice." His father replies, "Because we thought we knew what family looked like. But we only knew what it looked like for us, not for you." James admits, "We don't know how to fix it." Michael shrugs. "Maybe it's not about fixing. Maybe it's about accepting what you broke." Silence. Eventually, the father places the gift box on the rooftop ledge and says, "Whatever you do with this, we'll respect it." Then they leave. Michael stays, watching the sun set over the city. Alone, again, but not abandoned, just free. He opens the gift box one more time. After a long pause, he drops it in the trash bin. Months pass. The house is sold, downsized. The family no longer lives in the house Michael bought. Not out of shame, but because they finally saw the cost of it. Michael doesn't return for holidays. But one day, he receives a small envelope, inside a photo of him, as a child, sitting on his father's shoulders taken decades ago. On the back, a note in his mother's handwriting, "The house was never the gift. You were no return address." Michael puts the photo on his fridge with a magnet. He doesn't smile. He just nods like someone acknowledging a chapter closed. And then, he goes on with his day. 3 years have passed. The family home is long gone. The siblings are scattered across cities, careers, and quieter lives. Life has moved on, but not all wounds heal with time. Michael now lives in a small sun-filled home outside the city. There's a bike by the door, a reading chair by the window, and art on the walls. His life is minimal, private, and stable. He teaches part-time at a local college and volunteers at a community garden. His phone rarely rings, until one morning, it does. James leaves a voicemail. His voice is hushed. "Michael, Dad passed away this morning. It was peaceful. I thought you should know." Michael listens. No tears, no theatrics. He simply sits with it. The next day, he receives a printed invitation for the funeral in the mail. No note, just the details. He doesn't reply. He simply shows up at the small funeral hall. The air is heavy but not tragic. Death, after a long life, always feels half expected. Michael stands at the back, behind cousins and colleagues. He doesn't approach the casket. He doesn't need to. The ceremony is quiet, simple. James gives a eulogy. So does their mother, visibly older, her voice thinner. Neither mentions Michael. Afterward, James finds him near the exit. "You came," James says. Michael nods. "He was still my father. I wasn't sure if you'd ever forgive us." "I didn't," Michael replies gently. "But I also didn't stay angry." James swallows hard. "Mom wants to see you." Michael shakes his head. "Not today." A week later, James emails Michael a photo, their father's will. It's not about money, it's about land. A small wooded plot upstate that no one knew he owned. The note attached reads, "Leave this to Michael. He always understood the value of foundation." At first, Michael ignores it. Then, curiosity wins. He visits the land. It's quiet, untouched, covered in pines and soft moss. A creek runs through one edge. He stands there for a while, unsure what to feel. Then, unexpectedly, a voice behind him. "He used to come here alone." It's his mother. She's thinner, her hair fully gray. She doesn't look angry anymore, just tired. "Real, I thought. You didn't know this place," Michael says. "I didn't, not until last year." He said it was the only place he could think clearly. He said you would have liked it. Michael studies her. "Why did you come?" "Because I wanted to say something in person, and I didn't want it to be too late." They sit on a fallen tree. She fidgets with her wedding ring. "I loved you. I hope you know that," she says, "but I also expected you to give without needing anything back. That wasn't love. That was convenience. And I'm sorry." Michael says nothing at first. "Then, you taught me to be useful, not to be loved. I spent years thinking that if I gave enough, I'd finally be seen. I see you now," she whispers. "That doesn't undo it." No." There's a long silence. Then she pulls something from her bag. It's a small wooden box, old, slightly cracked. "I found this in your father's desk," she says. "It's the original letter you wrote when you gave us the down payment. He kept it. He reread it often." Michael opens the box. His own handwriting stares back at him. A signature from a younger man, hopeful and tired. He doesn't cry. He just nods. "I'll keep the land." Months pass. Michael visits the land regularly now. He clears brush, plants wildflowers, puts up a small bench. He begins sketching plans for a cabin, not for escape, but for presence, a place of his choosing. One day, he writes a letter. Short, honest. "I'm building something. It's not a home, it's not a monument, it's just space. If you ever want to come see it, you can. No obligation, no expectations." He mails it to his mother and James. Weeks go by with no reply. Then, one Saturday, he arrives at the land to find James waiting. No suit, just jeans, coffee in hand. James looks at the frame of the cabin. Michael is slowly building. "It's peaceful," he says. Michael nods. "That's the point." They work together for a while in silence, cutting wood, carrying beams. No big talks, just motion. Later, their mother visits. She brings sandwiches, sits on the bench, says very little. There's no dramatic family reunion, no forced forgiveness, just a few people trying, slowly, without asking too much. A year later, the cabin is finished. It's small, one room, a fireplace, a reading chair. A photo of the original house sits on the mantel, not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder. Michael stands outside with a guest book in his hand. He writes the first line, "Built on what was taken, held up by what remained." He places the book on the small table by the door. The wind moves through the trees, and for the first time in a long time, there's nothing left to prove. Just peace. It's early morning. The cabin is still there, but now it's grown. Not larger, just fuller. There's a small vegetable garden. A second bench by the creek. Wind chimes made from old spoons. The smell of cedar from the firewood. Michael is no longer alone. He's sitting on the porch with a little girl, around 5, her curls messy, her eyes sharp and observant. Her name is Lena, and she's asking too many questions, the way only children can. "Did you build the stairs? Did you plant the apples? Did you catch that frog yesterday, or did it find you?" Michael smiles, patient and quiet. "Sometimes, things just find us." We learn, slowly, that Lena is not his biological daughter. She's the child of a friend, a woman named Ruth, who passed away 2 years earlier. Michael had helped Ruth through her illness, and when the time came, he stepped in without hesitation. No announcement, no performance, just commitment. He never thought he'd be a parent. Now, he is one, by choice, not blood. As they prepare breakfast together, there's peace in the air, but also a question: what kind of legacy does Michael leave behind now that he has someone looking up to him? Later that week, James visits with his own teenage son. The brothers are older now, softened by time and parenting. James's son is shy, but clearly curious. He stares at Michael's tools, the cabin, the garden. You can feel the stirrings of respect. Over dinner, they talk about their parents, both of whom are now gone. Their mother passed quietly. The year before, she never returned to the cabin, but she wrote letters. Michael has them, tied in ribbon, unread but kept. The cabin is still there, but now it's grown. Not larger, just fuller. There's a small vegetable garden, a second bench by the creek, wind chimes made from old spoons, the smell of cedar from the firewood. Michael is no longer alone. He's sitting on the porch with a little girl, around 5, her curls messy, her eyes sharp and observant. Her name is Lena, and she's asking too many questions, the way only children can. Did you build the stairs? Did you plant the apples? Did you catch that frog yesterday, or did it find you? Michael smiles, patient and quiet. Sometimes things just find us. We learn, slowly, that Lena is not his biological daughter. She's the child of a friend, a woman named Ruth, who passed away 2 years earlier. Michael had helped Ruth through her illness, and when the time came, he stepped in without hesitation. No announcement, no performance, just commitment. He never thought he'd be a parent. Now, he is one by choice, not blood. As they prepare breakfast together, there's peace in the air, but also a question. What kind of legacy does Michael leave behind now that he has someone looking up to him? Later that week, James visits with his own teenage son. The brothers are older now, softened by time and parenting. James's son is shy, but clearly curious. He stares at Michael's tools, the cabin, the garden. You can feel the stirrings of respect. Over dinner, they talk about their parents, both of whom are now gone. Their mother passed quietly the year before. She never returned to the cabin, but she wrote letters. Michael has them, tied in ribbon, unread but kept. James says something surprising. You were the only one who built something that lasted. The rest of us just moved furniture around. Michael shakes his head. I didn't build it to last. I built it to be enough. Later that night, after everyone sleeps, Michael sits on the porch. He opens one of his mother's letters. I used to think giving was the same as love, but you gave everything, and still weren't loved the way you should have been. I see that now. I hope this land gave you what we couldn't. He folds the letter slowly, presses it to his chest. There are no tears, only breath. The next day Lena finds an old photo album in a drawer. Pictures from Michael's childhood. Some she recognizes, James, her uncle. Others she doesn't. Who are these people? She asks. Michael hesitates. That's a long story. Can you tell it? He does. Not with bitterness. Not with blame, just with truth. He tells her about the house, and the party, and the gift they never opened. He tells her about the silence that grew, and the land that saved him. And when she asks, are they the bad guys? He simply answers, they were scared. And scared people forget how to love. She thinks about that, then nods, and says, I won't forget. Years later, Lena is now a teenager. Strong, sharp, kind. She builds her own little studio next to the cabin. She paints, she writes, she tells stories. One day, she brings Michael a gift, wrapped in paper she made herself. Inside, a hand-drawn book, titled, The Man Who Planted Foundations. It's their story, his story, made beautiful through her eyes. Michael holds it, touched in a way words can't reach. This is too much, he says softly. Lena hugs him. No, this is enough. Lena, now in her mid-20s, walks through the same forest trail Michael once carved. She's confident, grounded, quiet, like him, but with her own fire. She's a storyteller, part documentary filmmaker, part memoirist. Her new project is simple, inheritance. Stories we don't talk about. She's interviewing people about what they've inherited emotionally, not financially. The camera is always just off-center. She never makes herself the subject until now. She returns to the cabin. It's still there, but now tech-equipped. Solar panels, rain catchers, wind chimes made from broken camera lenses. Lena's made it. Hers. Inside, Michael is older, 70s. His body has slowed, but his mind is still razor sharp. He watches her move, always amazed by how much of her is him. And yet not. You're recording again, he says, half-smiling. She nods. I think it's time I told our story. Michael raises an eyebrow. Haven't you already? Not with the camera on me. He watches her prep the tripod. Then start with the truth. She presses record. I wasn't born into this place. I was brought here after my mother passed. I was 6 years old, angry, scared, and very loud. And Michael, this man didn't try to fix me. He gave me space. That was the first gift. Not a toy, not a house. Space. Michael watches, blinking slowly. He looks at her the way someone looks at the sun at the end of the day, grateful. But squinting through the ache. Weeks pass. Michael's health begins to decline. Subtle at first, forgetting where his coffee is, mixing up dates, but Lena knows. She's watched people fade before, they talk about it. Not with fear, with clarity. I've lived more in the last 20 years than in the first 50, Michael says, because I finally stopped needing anyone to clap for me. They go through old things, a box of notebooks, his original gift letter, the photo of the first house, The final unopened letter from his mother. Still unread. Should I open it? He asks Lena. You don't owe her anything, Lena says softly. But you don't owe her resentment either. He opens it. Michael, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I hope you found peace without us, not because we wanted you to, but because you deserved to. If I ever gave you silence when you needed words, or words when you needed silence, I'm sorry. You were never invisible. Just too bright for our narrow eyes. Love, Ma. Michael folds it carefully, sets it in the fire, watches it turn to smoke, not out of anger, but release. Later that night, he gives Lena a sealed envelope labeled, If I'm gone before spring. Michael passes in his sleep. Peacefully, no drama. The last thing he said to Lena was, make it yours. She grieves, not loudly, but fully. She takes time. She stops filming. She lets the cabin be still for a while. When spring arrives, she opens the envelope. Inside, a deed. The land is now hers. A note, handwritten. This land was once something I used to escape, then something I built to survive, then something I lived inside. You made it a home. Don't preserve me. Expand yourself. Love freely. Leave nothing owed. Below that, a small quote carved into wood. The best gift isn't given, it's grown. The final scene is Lena giving a talk. Years later, she's on stage at a conference. A room full of young artists. The screen behind her shows clips of forests, cabins, firelight. I used to think inheritance meant what you were left with, she says. But sometimes, inheritance is what you refuse to pass on. She shows a photo, Michael holding her hand at age 8, both of them laughing. Mud on their clothes. I was raised by a man who was once turned away by his own family. He built something quiet, and from that, I learned how to be loud. Lena smiles, lifts her chin. I didn't get money. I didn't get a name. I got a way of seeing, a way of listening. And that changed everything.